Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
Well, hello, and welcome once again to the Far From Normal Radio Show. I am Jay Moss, one of your hosts, and I'd like to go ahead and bring in at this time Mr. Bud Vino. Bud, how are you doing this evening?
Yo, and yo, Jay Money Moss, my brother from another mother. It is March 20th, Tuesday, 2018. Oh boy, Jay. And as some people obviously know, Jay, we're a little fashionably late. And I was watching Family Guy the other day, Jay, and a famous line came to my mind when I thought of it. And I can kind of transpose it on here. I know we're not here to point fingers, Jay, or place blame, but I can't help but think this is somehow all Pete McNeil's fault. Guy. First of all, I want to say welcome to Pete. Before that, we get to our sister, Jessie. What up, Jessie? How you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Amazing. I know we are fashionably late this evening, and that's fine. I guess we do get to place a little bit of the blame on Mr. Pete McNeil, but that's all right. How you doing?
I feel special because usually the girl is the one blamed for being late. So thank you for that.
Well, we would have had to do that if we weren't a little scared of you. But also, Pete came in after you, so it was lucky for us. We make it seem like Pete's just the freshman, but we're like, oh, good thing Jesse's not there because we'd have to find somebody else. But we have Pete, so thank goodness. How are you, Pete?
I'm doing great, man. Nothing but smiles, love, and positivity. I got nothing else more to say than that.
Woo! I can feel it. Well, welcome, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you, Pete, and to Jesse. We love you. Jay, we got a great guest lined up and a great show lined up, so let's rock it. That's absolutely true.
And I'm going to go ahead without further ado and bring in our guest here that I'm going to unmute at this time. Andrew, how are you doing this evening?
I am doing well. Sorry about being late there. I'm not used to this calling in with video, even though you can't see my video.
Yes. And we are doing that this evening just to protect identity, obviously. When you do some of the things that Andrew is doing with Charlotte County COPWATCH, obviously you've got to protect your identity because some of those things, and maybe, we have to take a little bit of a hint as well too and protect some identities down the line, which we'll discuss that in the second hour. But obviously some of the things that you've encountered with the COPWATCH instance and the website that you have, obviously we've seen some police brutality and some of the things that you've experienced. What are some of the things that if someone was to come onto your site of Charlotte County, Florida COPWATCH, what they would see, what they would experience, and some of the things that you reveal and expose?
So what I do, as you guys do, you're fighting the corruption with the judges, the prosecutors, the lawyers. I unfortunately experienced the corruption from the Charlotte County Sheriff here, and then I found out about COPWATCH, which is nationwide, worldwide, and then I found out there was no COPWATCH here. And basically, COPWATCH is policing the police because, a good question to ask yourself is who is policing the police, just like who is policing the judges, exactly. Which you guys kind of do. Well, actually, you do. So what they'll see is I'm fighting corruption here. I do a lot of FOIA requests. In Florida, they call it sunshine law requests to dig up information, corruption. So I do stories here and I do stories nationally. I got the idea from basically Drudge Report. Just as you've seen, Drudge Report is the largest news website in the world, and all he does is redo other people's stories. So, right. So I'm basically doing the same thing. I mentioned to you guys before we started, you know, I must be doing something right. You know, I don't make any money, but you know, we're good. We're debt free. We have a little cleaning company. Not getting rich, but it's working. But as I told you right before we started, I must be doing something right. Until 3 months ago, when the sheriff took it down, I had a YouTube channel that in 5 years of work was at 77 million views.
Wow.
4 million views a month, 60,000 subscribers.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot. And obviously you've got a lot of people out there who are trying to keep an eye on the corruption and within this movement. We see a lot of the corruption that goes on within the family court and how that correlates because and we want to say this, and we want to be specific to say this because not all cops are corrupt. Not all judges are corrupt and not all attorneys are corrupt. But yes, there is a sense of responsibility that comes with giving someone power and authority. And so when you say who's policing the police, that's an issue. That's a problem that we've got to bring up in our society. Who is judging the judges on how they do what they do? Right now, we're seeing that some of these cases, or all of these cases, where attorneys are policing their own attorneys, and that's not working out very well, obviously. And so you have the same thing on the other side with you when it comes down to police officers. Who is policing the police officers of our country?
Correct. And actually, you know, we can relate it here again is, you know, it's just like the same thing with, you know, we're dealing with judges too. It first starts, in fact, you guys are too. The people that enforce these orders for you for the family stuff are the police. So the same police I'm dealing with, you know, that are, you know, I call it, you know, that doing a lot of victimless crimes, policing for profit and et cetera, especially here in Florida. You know, then it leads up to the judges. And there again, we absolutely have a problem with judges too. A lot of them, because do you guys know, are you aware of this, of the Brady list?
Not necessarily completely aware of the Brady list, no.
That is a list that if, you know, and you know what, I bet it happens with what you guys are doing within the family courts too. If you have, you know, some of these, you know, family court so-called cops, you know, keep doing bad stuff, just like with the regular cops, the prosecutor is supposed to keep a list of these bad cops. So when you go to court and you say, okay, we're going to take this to court. By the way, we want the list of bad cops to see if the cop that has charged me is on that list so we can bring it up. So, you know, the jurors know that this person is not always trustworthy. If you've never heard of it, I would start to research it because the judges and the prosecutors are supposed to have that, and a lot of them don't.
Yeah, and I think that it would be a beneficial thing for the movement to kind of get in contact with anyone who has such a Brady list, as you speak of, that would list some of the improprieties and horrible atrocities that are actually done within the family court system. My question, though, would be, what are some of the solutions to obviously these problems? Because we've got corrupt cops that are maybe bringing, and I wouldn't say this is the case. I mean, I really fully believe that everyone who becomes an attorney or everyone that becomes a cop or everyone that becomes a judge really goes into it with the best interest in mind.
Right.
But things happen over time. And so I think that what are some of the solutions that we can get in place that can help? I mean, do we have issues like, should we have mandatory issues for police where they have to go through psychological evaluations?
Well, I can tell you quickly, Jay, if I can. Bud, here, how you doing? First off, a lot of departments do have psychological evaluations. Some of you know I was a cop in 3 different towns in the state of New Hampshire, and I took a psych evaluation which should tell you all you need to know. No, I passed it.
Admitting it is the first step.
Right, exactly. But I can tell you quickly, and I've spoken about this a long time ago on the radio before, Jay, and you brought up a really good point on you don't believe that people go into it. They go into it with the best of intentions most of the time. Rarely, as you said, Jay, that was spot on. Also, it bleeds completely from the top. As I said in the beginning too, I've worked for a lot of different chiefs back in my younger days, and I can tell you that's where it starts. It's what is allowed, and what is accepted, and what is kind of turned a blind eye at, kind of looked away. People are corruptible. Humans are corruptible, and they'll push just like kids. Cops and departments will push and see where the limits will go to. It really is up to the chief and the higher ups to snap those officers back and say, hey, here's how you're going to conduct yourself. And when it's allowed and it continues, and the problem is a lot of the chiefs are worse than the officers. And it's just like a parent. Kids will not do what you say, right, guys? They'll do what you do, just like with police officers. I can tell you right now, as Jay said, there are some great ones. I know some really great ones that are still in law enforcement now, still cops, and I know some pieces of shit that never should have worn a badge, and some still do and some don't. But there's some disgusting human beings, and there's some amazing men and women out there, just like with any profession. So thanks for bringing that up, Jay. Yeah. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, and Andrew, I'm going to go ahead and pose that question to you, obviously, with maybe psychological or mental evaluations, or obviously we've got the cams that they wear now. I don't know if they call it something different in each state. Some call it a vest cam, some call it a body cam. Are those things actually working in the best interest, or are they not? That's a good question to pose.
Actually, I think the first thing starts with everybody needs to either start COPWATCH and or a community review board. Then absolutely cameras. You should have the car camera. You should have the body camera. Another one too that even courts are trying to prove that they're so-called not corrupt is they're doing court cameras, which I totally agree with. They're doing some stuff in court here that is atrocious. And then as you've seen, like I mentioned with you, we're not just doing community, I do FOIA requests, I do sunshine law requests. We are investigating the investigators, and even this past couple weeks, I've heard from a lot of people that have given me tips that they freaking hate me here because nobody ever questioned their authority until I came around 5 years ago.
Right, and I guess I'm in a little bit of awe because what you're saying is possibly some of those people who are watching or videotaping the cops are suspect themselves. Is that correct?
Right.
The ones that are recording the police?
Right. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, no, I don't know where that one came from.
Okay. My apologies on that one.
No, the ones I think everybody should record. I mean, anytime you see any police anywhere, the person being, talked to should record for both sides of protection. If anybody walking by should record. As you know, it is really, really hard to beat, video evidence. I mean, extremely. It still happens all the time, every single day, but it's really hard. ACLU is actually pushing for it right now, and I love it. If you get a ticket, you got to have video to back it up. If you get an arrest, you got to have video to back it up. If you do not, no arrest, no ticket.
Yeah, I believe that that's absolutely true, is what they should do. I know in the state of Illinois, it's one of those two-party consent states.
Right.
So unfortunately, a lot of that comes into play because now when you walk into a family courtroom, you can't record the proceedings that take place. Now, you can request that they be recorded, but they're recorded by their cameras, and you have to ask for access. And even if you're indigent, you still have to pay for the recording, which is absolutely insane. To say, okay, well, we'll record it, but you have to pay for our recording. That's ridiculous.
Well, actually, that's kind of normal. Can you give me a ballpark how much they're charging? I'll tell you if that's good or bad.
Yeah, it's about $350 for a half an hour here in Florida.
Oh, you guys are getting ripped off.
Jesse, Jesse and Jay and Pete, why are we getting that? Why are we getting that for a half an hour of footage? We're doing here.
Well, you know, and to bring this point up, because I think it's very, very important, and I want to make sure that I touch on this. Obviously, the Far From Normal radio show is copywritten, and it is copying the broadcast or retranscribing it without the express written consent of the Far From Normal radio show and its staff and board of directors is prohibited. So I will say that. So, you know, if those people who do want to go ahead and record, go ahead and send your check over to
Exactly. Jay will put it in the Far From Normal account, will be good.
And we'll pay for our court recordings that way. So, you know,
right.
hey,
there you go.
It works.
So Jay,
so you understand why they're charging that much, right?
Yeah, because they don't want you to do anything with it.
Exactly.
Right,
yes.
right.
They don't want you to get it. Correct.
Right.
Well, I hear a lot of the argument, because you hear it, and it is true sometimes. Again, I'm very pro recording. I say if you don't have anything to hide,
correct,
you don't have a problem with it, and I never would have had a problem with it. The issue, I think, a lot of times, Andrew, maybe you can speak on this. I know from what I've seen too, and I watch a lot of those, and I don't watch a lot of those too, those sort of videos. But I can tell you, and to the people out there that want to do this, definitely I want to implore people to do it. But be careful. You definitely don't want to interfere with a police officer, their duties, or any sort of safety when it comes to that. But for me, I've heard that argument a lot too. Is officers, well, it's, you know, if you know you're always getting recording, it's nerve-wracking. First of all, I'm a ham. I would have always said, see, back in my day, they just started, we had, you know, there was body cams and things, but it's a lot different now. But I would have said, go for it. I don't care.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are certain things as an ex-cop, I can tell you, there are a lot of things too. What you see on TV isn't it. But in some ways it is, in the sense of sometimes you got to do certain things to get the job done. As a cop, I can tell you, your hands are so tied. And especially with the mounting pressure of everything going on today, that I can tell you, for a young cop, I know there's a lot of frustration, as you talked about, Jay. People generally get into it with the best of intentions, but that's the problem. People start to get bitter and they start to get frustrated because they don't feel like they're doing certain things. And instead of, a lot of times what'll happen, just like any other job, they'll try and cut corners, and that's where the problem starts. Once you start getting away with it, you start feeling empowered when you did the wrong thing. Again, that's where it's over. There is no kind of corrupt. There is no, when it comes to being a cop, just a little. No, it is what it is. You don't. Some of us, again, you know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But I say, if you have nothing to hide, smile for the camera.
Yep. I would agree with that. And Andrew, I want you to speak on that, obviously, too, because some of this comes from the bottom where you cut corners, and I think some of this also comes from the directives that are up high when we're talking about some of these issues. Because let's say you've got a family court situation and you've got an issue with child support. Of course, now the police are going to get involved to enforce that order on a person. But the problem comes in is the police tend to say that, hey, this is a domestic situation when it comes down to enforcing the visitation order that is by court order as well. So it's kind of on this side we're seeing this, and I'm sure there are other issues on the other side, maybe where you can address those where a directive may be harming to individuals.
Actually, I'm really bad with names. Sorry, sorry, guy. The one that used to be a cop. Yeah. It's actually like I already said, it's actually policing for profit. And actually, what it is, a lot of them have quotas, and they are supposed to be illegal, but they are real.
Right. So that's the directive.
If they're not hitting those quotas, I mean, I've heard horror stories like in New York. That's why they were just cranking them, man. In fact, proof of that, remember when they killed the guy for the cigarette, the big black guy? Right. And the cops actually pulled back. It was actually the courts probation officers, everybody that had anything to do with that machine cried out to the cops, please start going out there and doing your thing again, because this is how we make our money, policing for profit. And one more quick one I got to add into there. I say it all the time. So this is a problem. You guys, you know, if I'm a libertarian constitutional, if you know your history, our founding fathers fought for freedom. And if you really look at it, local, state, and federal, there's so many laws, statutes, and ordinances now. Everything is illegal, and you are not free. That is the problem.
That is.
Yeah, well, and I can tell you just, you wanted me to speak on this, Andrew. I can tell you, the first thing is in New Hampshire, I can't speak on other states the way it was, is the majority of the ticket money went to the police academy and training the officers. I can tell you that's where a good majority of it went. And I can tell you this, I'm only speaking to the departments I worked for. None of them had quotas. And as a matter of fact, I can tell you, I hear that a lot. I'm not saying it's not true in other towns, but I can tell you I was verbally, I don't want to say reprimanded, but verbally told more than once. And I wasn't a big ticket giver. I was the type that would hear somebody out and, hey, man, hey, if you're coming home from work, it's time to get home for dinner. And I believe, hey, man, whatever. We all put our pants on the same way. But I did have more than one time my captain in a particular department tell me to cut the shit when I was giving a lot of tickets. Because, again, it's a lot of work, too. I can tell you, even just giving a speeding ticket. It's not, I mean, 90% of your, if not more, of your time is doing reports. And again, but I can tell you, so again, the captain I had was also the prosecutor. So he's like, hey, man, you can give him like free tickets. Cut it out. So, and I'm not saying that there weren't times where I didn't see people pushed who maybe weren't giving out. You know, if there was someone giving out a certain amount and there was another officer giving out nothing, they'd ask what the deal was, but never were we pushed in any direction to give, you know, come on, step it up on tickets. It was actually, I can remember more of the opposite. But, and that's in terms, again, in the state of New Hampshire, that's where the majority of the ticket money goes to the Academy of Retraining Officers. But again, that's just New Hampshire.
You know what they call it in Florida?
Contact hours.
No, down by me, they call it expectations.
Yep. I was going to say expectation. So I was speaking with the Pinellas County Sheriff Deputy the other day, and I was talking, you know, about quotas, because I just love to have these nonchalant, you know, indirect conversations with law enforcement all the time. And I brought up the idea of quotas, and you know, he said, well, the expectation is to have a minimum number of contact hours.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And again, I think too, Jess, you'll find, and again, it would be interesting to see, and it wouldn't be hard to find out where the ticket money per each state, because I'm sure it's quite different depending on the state. And then you'd be able to tell, again, that's fine, because no one wants, that's one of those dirty words, right? Quotas. So yeah, that's all those fancy words around it. Expectations.
Right, and so that's what the reclassification obviously would be is they're saying, okay, this may not be a quota, but this is your job expectation, and so if you want to do your job expectation or higher in order to get a pay raise, then you're going to do what's expected of you to do. So that's obviously the directive from above.
Correct.
So I would say that adds to some of the corruption from above, where they say, hey, look, there's a certain number that we expect you to hit, and if you don't hit those expectations, you could be reprimanded for not hitting those expectations.
And Jay, don't discount some cops just being assholes. I remember cops going into the department going, oh, I just pumped somebody's cherry. You know, someone who never got a ticket. Yeah, I'm like, what a tool. I can't even do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. So yeah, that's, you got to take that into account too. But again, there are people that, again, were like me more so that, again, I'm not saying I'm any better than anybody, but I would try to humanize it, man. If someone's, you know, I put my pants on like everybody else, I always say, and if someone, I legit just seemed like they were coming up for work, grubby, you know, doing their thing, or just, hey, and I felt that energy where I believed, hey, even when I was asked if the person was going, I mean, I had let people off doing 28 miles an hour over before. And yes, I would get spoken to, hey, what was up with that? Made an executive decision. You can write me up for it if you want. Have a good one.
Right.
So let me give you an example where kind of and I'll get your take on it too, Andrew, is where police interaction and family court interaction kind of come together and I guess mesh, so you'll say, because I'm going to describe an instance to you where my husband was in family court, and I had posted on my Facebook, on my own Facebook, you know, high five to Florida family courts taking the lives of fathers every day, or something to this effect, you know, because of the fatherlessness that's caused by our family court system here. And the next thing I know, I had a Pasco County Sheriff deputy at my door to do a welfare check, because they thought I was a threat to myself, that I was going to cause physical harm upon myself for a Facebook post that was posted substantially time ago. The judge had gone through, or somebody, the judge or the deputy that was looking on with her, had gone through onto my Facebook and was scrolling through my posts from, I want to say it was like a year prior, and constituted that to be a threat to myself, and came to my home to do a welfare check.
Can you say police state? She knows how bad it is here. There's a saying that come on vacation, leave on probation when you're in Florida. How out of control it is here. Okay. But yes, it is. I will tell you this. You are correct. It is so bad with them watching. They literally brag how they have software that scours all the local internets, Facebook here and everything. I already found out years ago that just because I do COPWATCH, I am under investigation. So it's happened to me too. It is unbelievable. And there's another reason why, like I said, I do what I do, because there again, I go all the way back to the founding. You know, what would the founding fathers say or do if, you know, if they came into America right now and found out what they're doing right now? What do you think they would do?
I believe that they would be rolling over in their graves right now. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think that it's an infringement on the First Amendment rights. Pete, what do you got to say about the First Amendment rights?
Well, the first,
oh Lord! Well, I guess it was censored. It's how this happens, and we can't. Honestly, if you're in the middle of a case, you get what they call, Andrew, a gag order by a family court.
Wow.
So and I know that Jesse's experienced this from another perspective, in the fact that obviously now a party who is not even in the case at all is being censored.
Yes.
And what they can or cannot say.
Yes.
Wow.
Is this
and like I told you, I mean, the YouTube channel was having such a huge effect, not only here but nationwide. In fact, I just heard from somebody earlier this morning how I don't want to pat myself on the back or anything, but he's like, dude, people are listening to you all over the country. I'm like, wow. It was making such a big effect. Like I said, they freaking sent the trolls over to my channel and striked me down. Took a whole channel. I appealed it. And when I appealed it, guess what I found out? Because if it was an Americans, I thought, okay, maybe if I appeal it, tell them that it was a couple cops that did it, they'd let me have it back. And they're acting like total Nazis. And I said, which country are you from? And they go, we're from England, where you have no rights.
Oh, my. Wow.
To touch on that, just on the whole thing in general, from what I'm listening to and everything like that, as far as corruption goes, there's corruption everywhere. Okay.
Correct.
And it doesn't matter whether you're in, for police, judges, lawyers, cops, corporate world, CEOs and everything like that. This is not nothing new to anybody in this country. Look at what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. They're draining the swamp. There's so much corruption going on everywhere. Now, my theory is that if you're not a corrupt judge, or you're not a corrupt cop or lawyer, whatever you are, whatever your profession is, if you're not corrupt, you have nothing to worry about.
Mhm.
We mean nothing to you in this movement. You understand? If you are corrupt, then yeah, I think you would pursue us and try to shut us down because you got something to hide.
Mhm.
And like I said, and if you're a Bible person, if you're religious, John 8:32, the truth shall set you free.
Mhm.
Correct.
Yep. I would agree with that, and I'm going to put it in my Decatur, Illinois concept of where I grew up, in the not so nice neighborhoods with very, very poor people. When the lights come on, the cockroaches scatter. And that's really how it works, because when the lights come on to the situation, you're going to start to see people scatter all over the place who have these issues of corruption. They're going to move and they're going to get out of where they're at. And I think that it has to start, obviously, at the top of these rings rather than at the bottom. So many times we start to shoot for, okay, well, my judge in my case is corrupt. Okay, well, your judge is an appointed judge, right? Okay, so who is their boss? And then I bet who is their boss, that's who we need to get to. Because when it comes down to it, it's the directive of the judiciary that is causing these issues. Just like we say the job initiative is with the police department, where it's some of the upper echelons or the city mayor who's saying, hey, look, here's the directive. We need money from the law enforcement. You guys got to start writing tickets. Here's the expectation that I need you to fulfill. And whatever you have to do to get that done, do it. And that puts a lot of strain unnecessarily on a law enforcement officer to do their job. And sometimes they go just a little bit too far in doing that. And it's unfortunate that that's the case. But Andrew, obviously, we've got some initiatives that could possibly take place, I believe. I mean, I know that we've got issues with the judiciary on our side of the equation when we talk about the family court system, where we say, hey, some of these issues could be resolved with better legislation. Some of these issues could be resolved by legislation that would allow us to have a trial by jury in each and every one of these cases under constitutional law. What are some of the things on that side that could help correct some of these things?
The huge thing is, like, still again, is start, your community watchdog group. You don't got to call it COPWATCH, just you got to have community watch. And then, like I said, said right away too, it is body cameras, car cameras, court cameras, expose it that way. And then like, one thing that I'm doing too is, like you said, I am turning the light on. I am getting all these stories and exposing it. In fact, you guys just saw one of the stories we just got in just this past week, where the guy was mauled by a police dog on the ground, passed out, tased him, beat him. And this dog ate his forearm so much they almost had to amputate it. And they completely lied in the police report. And they want to give the guy 8 years in prison. Wow. So it is called, and like you said, we want to relate how these both relate together. So I literally am doing the same thing that you guys are doing. You guys are exposing who's doing what, where, how, why, and when, and that you're turning the light on. You're letting people know what's going on. I agree with you guys. Family court. Wow, what a nightmare. In fact, she can tell you up there in Tampa that they had a family court cop working at Pinellas County Sheriff's Office that just got busted for making fake reports on a bunch of families. So here he ruined families and their lives just because he was a lazy bastard and made up fake reports. Never even went there to see the people or nothing. I mean, it was disgusting. So you have to expose that kind of stuff, as she knows. And she's lucky. She up that way. She's got a guy called, his name is James McLinnis. He unfortunately experienced the corruption. And in fact, he's running for sheriff.
Yes, he
and
is.
he's running on freedom, and he almost won because he literally told people, "I'm going to run on freedom. I'm going to quit, busting people for weed because that's stupid. God made it. Come on, it's safer than alcohol, in my opinion."
Right.
And then he was going to stop policing for profit, because in Florida, that's literally what it is. A lot of people don't know this. Florida is the third largest jail and prison population in the country. Hey, it gets worse, in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody thinks that we're free. We're a free country. And we are far from free. The jails and the prisons are a huge industry now, and it's just really, it's disgusting, man.
So that whole saying that Andrew said at the beginning, you come to Florida on vacation, you leave on probation, you come back on a violation. That's a true story. It's a true story on the course of how it happens here. You come for spring break, you get a DUI, or you get an indecent exposure, or, because you're streaking down the hallway of the hotel, or you get a disorderly because you yelled at somebody. And then your life is ruined. And that actually started to, boomerang when we transformed into the Department of Corrections, and our prisons became privatized, and it became an incentivized system where they're actually generating revenue. And they saw all the revenue in doing this, and that's when a large majority of the money started to come into our state. And until we bring transparency, and until we do eradicate these fraudulent legislators and sheriffs and cops and to no end, nothing's going to change. Whether it's family court, whether it's our police system, whether it's our judges. I think it's we're gotten at the point where it's time to wipe the system dry and build from the ground up.
Yeah.
Amen. I agree.
Yeah, I think that there's some correcting that could be done. I think overall, we've got to really take some serious hard looks into, are all of the laws of the United States, or per state, are they following the Constitution? Because the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution states that all laws must adhere to the Constitution. If they don't, they're void on their face.
Marbury versus Madison.
Right. On Marbury versus Madison, it says that explicitly. So we've got an issue in this country where we have state statutes. Okay, let's say, for instance, one state statute, of course, in the state of Illinois, sodomy is against the law in the state of Illinois. So while that is on paper great, what you've just done, though, is you've ostracized every gay male in the United States, or in the state of Illinois, by saying if you're a gay male and you have sex with your partner, then guess what? You are breaking the law. That's what you're basically stating. So all of those things come into place, where it's not following constitutional law nor principle.
Correct.
So we've got a huge problem in this country where we have to reform the judiciary on the criminal side and on the civil side of the equation, and we need to have a complete divide between the two. I have a lot of ladies, Andrew, that contact me on I would say at least 2 to 3 a day that say, hey, I've experienced domestic violence, blah, 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 blah. And I understand. Trust me, I do, and I sympathize with you. I don't think that domestic violence is right in any aspect at all. But you come to me and you say this, and then I say, okay, did you go to the criminal courts? Because this is a criminal activity. No, I just brought it to the civil court. I just brought it to the divorce court. No. It's not to be adjudicated in a civil court without going to a criminal court. It's a criminal activity. You're asking a civil court to do a criminal activity court's job, and that's not right, obviously. And we see and we hear a lot of hearsay in the family court, and it's being allowed and being constituted as fact when it's not the truth. Um,
That's a big problem, Jay. I don't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, that's been a thing that's been going on for years, you know, and it's not just with females. I mean, because I'd say the people that I help cases out with, I'd say 90% are women that I help with their cases. You know what I mean? Not even men. Whatever for the reason is, it is what it is. But the thing is that it happens on both sides.
Yes.
But you know, once you have the proof and the things that actually transpired in that situation, you have to bring it out, facts and data, building blocks. You have to bring that out immediately. This way, it can be rectified, and you know, the things, whatever who needs to be prosecuted needs to be prosecuted. On the same sentence, I would like to say that if it's a false allegation, expect the worst. Because false allegations are just as bad, civil bullets are just as bad. That's another form of domestic violence as well.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
You know, be careful what can of worms that you open out there. You know what I mean?
That's right. Because some of these I just saw lately, and I'm not sure, Andrew, if you saw this, that there was actually a couple of cases out there lately where a woman had accused another man of either rape or domestic violence, and the accusation was found to be false, even with witnesses, and actually it turned on that person. And they were put in jail, I believe, for like 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so Andrew, I mean, if you've got, again, we go back into false allegations and in videotaping everything, correct?
Yeah, video rocks. No, I did not hear about those stories. But our Florida lady can tell you, if you guys aren't aware, you know what's happening here. Florida is so corrupt that they were thousands of rape tests behind. And they didn't test these tests for like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Finally, they got busted for that. And guess what's happening now that, you know, when you get busted, when you get busted, it's not just fingerprint and picture. A lot of times you're getting your DNA, you're going into a database. And guess what they're finding out? They are literally busting cases 10 to 20 years old from rape kits.
Wow.
So it is interesting. So you are right. Yeah, false accusation, absolutely, that is bad. At the same time, Florida had the other side where, you know, the cops are like, oh, yeah, right, whatever, we'll take the test. We're not even going to test it because you're probably lying. And guess what? Now we're finding out they weren't lying.
Yep.
Well, you know, those people should be held accountable, though. So my thing is that, you know what? Whatever the person, if they should be charged with that. If there was a false allegation if there was a false allegation for rape, okay, and the term would have been 5 to 10 years, whatever it is, okay.
Right.
If it was a false allegation, then that person who actually falsified that police report and everything else, they should get the same type of sentence as if that person would have been accused for the rape.
Right. Right. And that's a good argument. I think it's
I agree. That is a good argument. I mean, because you're ruining somebody's life, you know, because actually, you know, she was telling you something that's true. I've been doing this for 5 years. You've heard horror stories how family court ruins your life. Oh my God. How about when you're in jail and prison? That ruins your life, your family's lives. Even down here, even just going to jail for 2 weeks, you know, 1 month, a couple months, you lose your job, you lose your house, you lose down here. What they're doing too is they're charging you so much for impound fee for your car. By the time you get out, you can't afford the fee. And guess what? They are seizing and forfeiting your car and selling it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's bad. Oh, it's really bad.
So you've got issues with when someone's doing some of these things and maybe they're falsifying issues that they're going through, either domestic violence. You've got the cases obviously of abuse or rape, and then you're compounding that on, okay, now I'm going to finally charge somebody that I've swabbed 10 years ago. on their DNA to find out if they did or if they did not rape someone. Well, what happens in the meantime? That person is, it's like the issues that we have with people coming from other countries, illegal aliens, and then to commit a crime, and then we ship them back to their country, and then they just ship themselves right back and commit the same crime. That's just ridiculous. I think it's like Bud Vino always says. My brother, he says, repeating the same activity over and over.
Insanity. Definition of insanity.
Right. Albert Einstein.
I think part of the problem, I want to go back to the DNA thing. I think that there's a really flawed system. First of all, just because you're under arrest doesn't give the police the right to take your DNA.
That is a great point also, correct?
Okay? It does not give the right. It also doesn't give the police the right to charge you $20 to book you through the jail, just to bring that up.
Correct again.
And then
you get arrested for being falsely accused. Like,
yes, and listen, I was arrested. The charges were dismissed, and I was still charged $20 to be booked for an unconstitutional arrest.
Did you fight it?
I'm suing them.
Oh.
So the answer is yes.
Yes. But then the other side of that is this, is how many women out there, and no disrespect to you, in assisting them, but how many women out there have put forth false allegations of domestic violence, false allegations of sexual abuse, have engaged consensually in these sexual acts, and then claim misconduct, and then DNA samples, and then, and the backlash of that, and arrest 10 years later. The system is extremely flawed, and it is my mission to eventually address each big component in its own self. But these are a lot of the things that are wrong with the system at its face.
Right. I think that compounds when you actually have domestic violence cases and you have actual rape issues where it harms the people who actually have gone through those things, because it doesn't allow a police officer to take what happened seriously, and they really should, on each and every case, should happen to take it seriously. An accusation of a criminal issue such as domestic violence or rape are very, very serious issues.
Correct.
But they're very, very serious issues on both sides of the equation if you are falsifying or if you actually are a victim. And
Absolutely.
I wanted to say that. So Andrew, I think we're coming close to our end of our time here with you, but we want to definitely thank you so much for coming on, and we'll definitely stay in contact with you.
All right, thanks for having me on, and just keep doing what you're doing is great. I already mentioned to you I had a similar situation up north in Michigan, really bad deal with family court, and so I feel you guys' pain, we all gotta keep watch on the people above us, because with power comes corruption.
Yeah,
but with transparency comes accountability.
There you go. Very good.
Exactly.
Andrew, hit me up as a friend request. I'm not sure if I have you or not, but hit me up as Peter McNeil. With your page, and I'll like your pages, and I'll share them, and I'll promote them also. And also, for friend requests, if I'm not your friend already, I'm not sure. I haven't looked you up yet.
All right. Yeah, is it all right if I mention it? We actually, all through the whole show, we actually did not mention that. The easy way to find me is on Facebook. Just type in Charlotte County Cop Watch. I'm going to come up. And then on YouTube, same thing. Just type in Charlotte County Cop Watch. I'm going to come up. Just so you have an idea, how addicted and pissed off I am about waking people up. The old channel had, I believe, in 5 years, 16,000 stories. My backup channel, which is at almost 12 million views right now, I think 12,000 subscribers, 1,200,000 views a month. That's at, I think, 13,000 videos. So that's how I'm, in fact, actually, now that we have the computers and cameras, I can't even keep up with all the stories that are coming out. But I mean, but as you know, like you're exposing and I'm exposing, if we keep it up, hopefully we can take our country back again.
Well, I might be working with you in the near future, so keep me posted and friend request me, because that's all I can say.
All right, I will do that.
Pete, put that little sensor thing up, Pete. You got to put that sensor thing up in front of your face. I remember that.
I
good.
did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Andrew, yes. Bud here. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Andrew, for coming on. It was enlightening, entertaining, and also, again, informative. So thank you for coming on and sharing a little bit of what you do, and thanks for doing it.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right.
Anytime,
Thanks
brother.
a lot. We appreciate it. And hit there. Stop that video. Okay. All right. So. All right. So we got.
County. This is Charlotte County Cop Watch, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too, because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County Cop Watch with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually, yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it, 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.